Aliens in Star Wars are one of my favorite things in Star Wars. Many great alien designs were given to us, like Hutts, Wookiees, the Keldor, Kaminoans, and even the Gungans. And that's just to name a small fraction of all the great designs. There's dozens, maybe even hundreds. In this video, we will go over 11 Nautolans, Bothans, the Balinaka, Togruta, Geonosians, the Troigs, Sullustans, Cathars, the Kaleesh, Trandoshans, and Mirialans. Now, this video is a video that comprises of these alien species videos that I did over the last year. So, there's a Nautolan video, a Bothan video, etc. However, on some of these species, I neglected to mention their home planet. So that has been added for every species that not have that, as well as the Troig. That's a new species that I didn't cover in its own video. So there is value in watching this long video if you have seen all the other alien videos before. But feel free to skip around, use the timestamps, only watch what you feel like watching. But first, what's going on, guys? I'm the Walrus Jedi, and welcome to Star Wars Alien Species Part 1. If you like this long video, then please consider liking and subscribing and hitting the notification bell for more. Without further ado, let's roll the intro.
Those who have power should restrain themselves from using it.
Glee Anselm, located in the Jalor sector of the Mid-Rim on the Namdi corridor between Vasset and Ordovari. This mostly oceanic planet had a single moon and a few large land masses. Most of its land are little more than swampland, mild in climate, with it ranging from tropical to temperate, although storms and hurricanes were very common. It had a 33 standard hour day and a 206 standard day year. The planet was home to not only Nautolans, but also the Anselmi. Nautolans dwelled in the water, and the Anselmi dwelled on the land. The Anselmi were warlike, and the Nautolans did manage to hold them off, and they slowly started becoming the dominant species of Glee Anselm. In the Galactic Senate, Darsana represented Glee Anselm and was part of the Loyalist Committee, and during the Clone Wars, a battle was fought on its soil. With the Empire gone, the New Republic set up a new government on the planet. It comprised of 10 counselors, each over a specific responsibility, like trade or diplomacy. And then some languages of Glee Anselm are Anselmian and Nautala. The population is about 100 to 500 million. The population is comprised of about 53% Anselmi and 45% Nautolan and 2% other. They import technology and export foodstuff, medicine, and water. Nautolans are amphibious humanoids native to the Sabalon area of Glee Anselm, a world of wetlands, lakes, tidal pools, and seas located in the mid-rim. Like many aquatic species, they are able to breathe underwater and possess thick, rubbery flesh that is commonly green and spotted, acting as camouflage in an undersea environment. Unlike other water-based species, however, Nautolans do not experience difficulties out of water. They are able to exist on desert planets without trouble, although it is unclear if there is an upper limit to their tolerance for arid conditions. Nautolan skeletons are reinforced with extra cartilage, making them extraordinarily resilient, and their large black fish-like eyes enable them to see clearly in the murkiest of marine locales. They have webbed fingers and toes which aid in their swimming ability. They have a crown of long green tendrils that resemble smaller versions of Twi'lek Leku adorning their heads in place of hair. These head tentacles serve as sensory organs for the Nautolans, and they also allow the Nautolans to read the emotional state of beings in their close proximity, although they're not as effective as in the water. Or rather, they're most effective in water. So on dry land, they still have this ability, but it's not as good. This is because the Nautolans' head tails do not read minds, but rather read pheromones carried by water currents. The tendrils are also olfactory sensors that greatly enhance the sense of smell, picking up through a porous outer layer of skin subconsciously released biochemicals that often indicate various feelings and moods. Even when on land, your average Nautolan can frequently discern the dispositions of other individuals based on changes in their pheromones. Nautolans reproduce like other amphibious species in the laying of eggs, and they hatch to become tadpoles. The infant Nautolans proceed quickly through their stages of development, such that by their second standard year of life, they are roughly the same size as a human infant and already possess arms and legs, though their legs are not yet strong enough to support their weight so they can walk. And infant Nautolans' head tails begin to develop their extrasensory abilities between their second and third years. This may be a programmed result of evolution, as this is also the time when many Nautolan children begin to speak, and thus their tendrils are able to start aiding in interpreting the potentially confusing input that they are receiving from the world around them. Because of these empathic abilities, Nautolan moods often reflect those nearby. So, obviously, if you have a lot of sad people, Nautolans are going to be sad, angry, so you get the picture. As a species, however, Nautolans are a fairly happy people who express joy with abandon, particularly when they are free to use their talents without restraint. For instance, Nautolans have been known to flash a wide, brilliant smile when in the midst of physical combat. While the delight behind the smile is quite genuine, this flash of passion can also be intended to emotionally disarm their opponents, who may perceive it as a sign of the Nautolans' combat superiority. Other than the fact that their tendrils do not function quite as well out of water, Nautolans prefer aquatic life for another reason, one directly related to their language. Spoken on land, their native tongue, Nautala, is unpronounceable and loses a good deal of its meaning because much of it is tied to pheromone projections that are released in conjunction with spoken words. As a result, Nautolans will speak Basic with those who use the standard tongue of the galaxy, or Anselmian, the language spoken by the Anselmi, their land-dwelling neighbors on Glee Anselm. The ability to speak Basic has encouraged many Nautolans to take to the stars, chasing a spirit of adventure. Nautolans are an extremely loyal people, and as such, they will mate for life. Most Nautolans see a happy mating as a necessary requirement of existence, and families are raised with equal input from both parents. Marriage choices are in most cases made through courtship, as is typical in many humanoid societies. Although arranged marriages have declined among the Nautolans in the last few centuries, they do still occur. Nautolan settlements are governed by an elected council of elders, although in this case elders is a title of respect rather than a sign of age. And the centralized government takes the form of a body of representatives from each settlement. A subcommittee of this body works cooperatively with the overall leadership of Glee Anselm. One of the best known Nautolans in history is obviously Jedi Master Kit Fisto. Renowned for his skills with a lightsaber, Fisto's lightsaber, it is said, could operate underwater because of two unique crystals that he used to power it. Also famous for his strength of spirit and his wisdom. Fisto was instrumental in the defeat of the Quarren forces that sympathized with the Confederacy of Independent Systems during a conflict on Mon Calamari. In addition, Master Fisto was unique in that he was one of the few non-Twi'leks able to read Leku, the Twi'leks' elaborate language of head-tail movements. Nautolans have coexisted in peace with the Anselmi for thousands of years. Any wars that they have had with each other have been short, though quite passionate and bloody. Some of these conflicts were instigated over underwater developments as well as fishing rights and the dumping of waste products. The Anselmi, being land dwellers, will often infringe on Nautolans' territory to construct new developments when housing is required, sparking the majority of such disagreements. However, the Nautolans are stronger and better fighters, giving them the advantage over their neighbors in such struggles. Many of these conflicts were mediated by representatives of the Old Republic government, though no disagreements between the species are known to have arisen in recent years.
The data brought to us by the Bothan spies pinpoints the exact location of the Emperor's new battle station. Many Bothans died.
For spies and infochants, Bothawui is the ultimate test, a world drenched in espionage. Bothawui's stone towers are home to a staggering number of plots and counterplots, with agents from the Empire, Rebellion, Hutt Space, Black Sun, Slaver Rings, Megacorps, and guilds meeting, spying on one another, and running afoul of double and triple crosses. And why not? The ruthless pursuit of power and influence is known unapologetically as the Bothan way, and the Bothans care not a whit if this instinctive opportunism causes non-Bothans to regard them with suspicion or open loathing. For millennia, the Bothans have been masters at keeping their freedom and independence in a galaxy full of enemies, negotiating canny deals with the Hutts, the Republic, and the Empire. Bothan space is a nexus of trade routes and an important base of operations for many megacorps, with low taxes and a minimum of red tape. Bothans loathe bureaucracy nearly as much as they love intrigue. The Empire maintained a remarkably hands-off policy toward Bothan space, mindful of its economic importance and usefulness as a check against Hutt ambitions, while wary of the damage the Bothan spy net could cause. The Bothans played an influential role within both the Rebel Alliance and the New Republic, helping retrieve intelligence on both the Second Death Star and the Emperor's World Devastators. Though many elements of those organizations never fully trusted the spy masters, it didn't help that Emperor Palpatine proved a master at using unwitting Bothan spies for his own advantage. After the Empire's collapse, the Kamas document crisis sparked anti-Bothan demonstrations and riots on New Republic worlds. The use of New Republic ships to guard Bothan space during the Yuuzhan Vong War invasion sparked further resentment, despite New Republic Chief of State Borsk Faelia sacrificing himself to kill thousands of Vong on Coruscant. In the Corellia-Coruscant conflict, Bothawui sided with Corellia after Galactic Alliance. Secret police killed many Bothans on Coruscant. Now let's see where Bothawui is on the map. Bothawui is located in the mid-rim. In the mid-rim you have other planets, like Kashyk's in the mid-rim, Mandalore, Dathomir, a few others. That'll give you an idea. Coruscant is in the core, and then obviously places like Mustafar or Tatooine are in the outer rim. So that'll kind of. Now for the main event. Bothans are short, furry humanoids native to the planet Bothawui in the mid-rim, although they have established colonies on other worlds such as Kothlis and Torolis. The Bothans evolved long ago from feline progenitors, though they retain only a few attributes that connect them with their ancestral background. They are covered entirely with fur, the color of which can range from milky white to dark brown. The hair on their face tapers downward to form a type of beard. Their fur serves as an additional transmitter for the Bothan's body language. Undulations in the hair on the head signify their emotional state, or emphasize important points during a discussion. These subtle changes are usually difficult to decipher by those who are not members of the species. Although some outsiders have learned to read these nonverbal cues with great accuracy, such a knowledge of Bothan behavior is extremely helpful when negotiating with this intelligent and opportunistic people. Also similar to most cat species, they possess sharp eyes and teeth, as well as 5-fingered hands with nails that extend and retract, though they rarely use them unless they find themselves in one-on-one combat, and in Bothan culture this is a rare occurrence, which explains why most outsiders are unaware that they even have this ability. Bothans express themselves with great eloquence, and mastery of public speaking is an accomplishment that merits prestige in their culture. They are consummate politicians, and as such, they are important players in the arena of galactic politics, well known for their intelligence-gathering abilities. Bothans are considered unsurpassed in that field. Preceding the Battle of Endor, many of them sacrificed their lives to steal the technical schematics for the second Death Star, as well as the information that the Emperor would be present conducting an inspection of the station during the rebels' planned attack. For this and other reasons, they achieved an influential role in the New Republic's government. The New Republic military prided itself on its Bothan members, with Bothans serving in every capacity from pilot to admiral. One Bothan in particular, Borsk Phaelia, served as chief of state before uncharacteristically sacrificing himself during the Yuuzhan Vong invasion of Coruscant. Despite Phaelia's noble deed, status is almost always the goal of Bothans. The quest for influence and power is at the heart of their culture. By nature, Bothans are greedy for status, often becoming manipulative and opportunistic while seeking the prestige that comes from controlling others. Wealth isn't as important to them as influencing those who have money, and family clans frequently plot ways of gaining resources and strategic positioning. When a Bothan clan desires something, be it information, an object, or a position of power, members will spy on one another, spread rumors, and make convenient alliances. They seldom attack a competitor directly, usually waiting for rivals to make mistakes. One side effect of these cultural motivations is that Bothans are also habitually paranoid, believing that anyone who's not working for them is working against them. Unfortunately, their paranoia is usually well-founded. Layer upon layer of schemes swirl around any clan, and outsiders who associate with Bothans often find themselves unwittingly caught up in the web of intrigue. This paranoia can be taken to extremes against other species to the extent of xenophobia and prejudice, and can blind Bothans to the genuine good intentions of others, often to their own detriment. They simply do not attribute a lack of guile to these beings with whom they come into contact. Bothawui and all the Bothan colonies are locally governed by the Bothan Council, which consists of representatives of each clan and serves as the primary lawmaking and law enforcement body. Each of the member clans is a collection of families who have bonded together in a common tradition or heritage. Currently, approximately 600 clans are part of the council, and more than 50 others have petitioned for membership. These newer clans are typically from smaller, younger settlements that have formed apart from the established colonies. In order to be accepted for membership, a simple majority of the council must approve a petition, and representatives of new clans are constantly engaged in forming alliances to meet their goal of inclusion. In order to manage council business, the members elect one of their number to become the council chief. All policies are decided by a majority vote, with the chief holding the tie-breaking call when necessary. Every council member heads up several ministries and committees and appoints clan leaders to positions of importance. Payoffs and rewards are common, as these clan leaders in turn assign others in their retinue to lower-level positions. This centuries-old system of finding favor and gaining power enables Bothans of any clan or background
to attain prestige and influence if they manage to play by the right rules. It also allows powerful clans to maintain their established realms of control on Bothawui. The Bothans have long been a spacefaring race, settling on many planets outside Bothawui, the most notable of which is Cothless. However, anything that can be found on Bothawui is found on its colonies. Though the newer settlements that are still not official members of the Bothan Council get less attention in terms of goods and services, all the more motivation for them to use intrigue and stratagem to push their agenda in the Council. Thus, Bothans of these upstart colonies can be some of the most ambitious and backstabbing examples of the species that one may encounter. Set in the heart of Bothan space in the Mid-Rim, Bothawui's location has made it a major trading center and hub for shipping convoys. Business thrives there, especially because the low tax rates and governmental bureaucracy are not overly burdensome. Several major galactic banking and financial institutions have sited their corporate headquarters there, employing thousands of Bothans in their operations, as well as in major trading exchanges centered on Bothawui. While banking and finance appears to be the fastest growing legitimate business on Bothawui, spying is still the Bothans' main industry. Everyone comes to Bothawui to get information, even though it can often come at a hefty price. The Bothan Spynet, an underground system for buying and selling all forms of data, is just as active as it was under the rule of the Empire. Organized crime factions, political leaders, and corporate moguls arrive on the Bothans' world to get an inside scoop. And yet, for all the Bothans' deceptive nature and quests for self-advancement, Bork's Phalia's death is just one example revealing the core of their being. At heart, the majority of Bothans are brave and loyal, and they will serve causes that they believe in to the bitter end. Many other species find Bothans difficult to deal with because they seem to lack selflessness. But in reality, most Bothans ultimately do believe in freedom and sacrifice to achieve a venerable goal. They will take chances and risk much in any conflict that threatens those they love or those to whom they've pledged loyalty.
Garnib, located in the Garnib system in the Bosni sector in the Outer Rim, home to the Balinaka, considered to be the galaxy's most artistic beings. The Empire ruled here. The Balinaka were exported as slaves to breeding farms on Kerfedian. Galactic Crystal Creations was headquartered on Garnib and exported Garnib crystals. It was a cold planet with frigid oceans and glaciers aplenty. The Vernal immigrated to Garnib when their homeworld became uninhabitable. It has 35 standard hours in a day and 432 local days in its year. It has a population of about 100 million. Its government is the Galactic Crystal Creations. It's controlled by that. It imports technology, metals, and minerals, and exports Garnib crystals and fish. Balinaka were a strong amphibious mammalian species hailing from icy Garnib. Thick white fur covered their bodies. A dual lung system allowed these sentient creatures to breathe both air and water. Each of their digits had webbing, and they also had a flexible tail, useful for swimming. They had excellent night vision and ate mostly fish. They shared Garnib with the frog-like Vernals. The Balinaka lived in carved underground cities called Sufis. They were also renowned ice sculptors. The Balinaka were used as slaves by House Vandrin on Carfedian.
Poor boy. The Sith always betray one another. But I'm sure you'll learn that soon enough.
Shili, located in the Shili system in the Esog sector in the expansion region, home to the Togruta. The planet had been part of the Republic for a long time, and Togrutas have been members of the Jedi Order since its earliest years. Many fearsome beasts, such as the Akul, called Shili home, Turu grass covered Shili's scrublands,
and valley canopy forests, and Corvala served as the capital city for the Togruta. It had a population of about 10 billion to 100 billion. The species that lived on Shili were the Togruta, humans, and the Twi'leks, and the language spoken there was Togruta. Togrutas are a humanoid species native to the temperate planet Shili, positioned in the expansion region of the galaxy. It's at the top of the map, the northern map part of it. You should see a dot designating Shili. All Togrutas have colorful markings on their skin, a genetic trait left over from their predatorial ancestors. Long, striped, curved, hollow horns spiral upward from the top of their skull, and 3 darker striped head tails, similar to a Twi'lek's Leku, drape downward, 2 to the front and falling over their chest, and 1 thicker tail that is centered at the rear base of their skull. Togruta's skin is deep red, and their dark eyes and gray lips are embellished by the white markings that adorn their face. Vertical red and white stripes cover their chest, back, arms, and legs. As Shili is covered in thigh-high turu grass that is typically a blending of red and white colors, the Togruta's ancestors and the Togrutas themselves blended in with the natural environment, confusing both prey and other predators. When hunting, their headtails aid them in providing echolocation abilities and a finely tuned spatial sense, which they use to encircle herbivorous prey. Togrutas are a peaceful, quiet people who are fierce in combat, loyal to a cause, and happy in larger groups. They work well with others and easily fit into teams of mixed cultures. Most do not like to be alone, however, and will tend to follow other members of their group around simply for companionship. Many outsiders have the misconception that Togrutas are venomous, as they possess prominent incisors that give the impression of a snake's venom projecting teeth. Togrutas frequently have no idea how this perception originated, but sociologists believe it is because Togrutas prefer to eat their smaller prey while it's still alive, much like Thespasians. One of their favorite meals is thymars, small rodents that hide in the grasslands of Shili. Togrutas will take a living thymar and bite into it with their incisors, killing the creatures quickly and painlessly, and so observers have been known to mistake the thymar's death throes for the jolts of an animal dying of poisoning. But even though these convulsions are merely post-mortem muscle spasms, most Togrutas will not correct the misconception that they are venomous. The Togruta's evolutionary ancestors were predators that lived and hunted in packs, and thus modern Togrutas are also effective hunters who prefer to dwell in dense, communal villages camouflaged by the forest canopies and sheltered in hidden valleys. Some vestiges of the Togruta's beginning as pack animals remain in their social customs. First, as a habit, Togrutas do not wear shoes whenever possible, feeling that by covering their feet they are cutting themselves off from the land in a spiritual way. Also, every available able-bodied person is expected to take part in the village hunts, and the spoils are shared equally. This is expected even of young children as soon as they are able to effectively hold a weapon, and typically occurs without any specialized training. Togrutas believe that those who are unable to keep pace with the pack should be left to die, and on Shili, those who are unable to fend for themselves often do. Togrutas will not shed any tears over such as a loss, a characteristic that can give the impression to outsiders that they are unfeeling beings. This is not the case though, and the lack of remorse is instead a belief that the death of those unable to defend themselves is simply the course of nature. In addition, Togrutas wear the results of their hunts proudly, and as a sign of adulthood, it is common to see Togrutas wear the skins of the animals they've killed or other trophies of the hunt. For example, the akul is a large carnivorous animal often hunted on Shili, because it is the only native animal that poses a serious threat to the Togrutas. Fierce creatures that emit frightening growls, these orange-furred quadrupeds predominate on the open plains of Shili, attacking settlements and villages. By tradition, akul teeth adornments can only be worn by a Togruta who has slain one without assistance. Not an easy task. as Akul seem strangely gifted at the sensing the presence of other predators, and will begin howling as soon as one is near. The animal's teeth are the common trophy mostly because Akul are known for the strength of their jaws, and the breaking the hold of an Akul is nearly impossible for a normal humanoid. Like a Nexu, an Akul will use their hold to shake their prey until the victim's neck breaks. The standard jewelry crafted from these teeth for both males and females is a headdress worn across the forehead and down around the Togruta's eye patches, a combination of indigenous metals, stones, and pearls. Recovered images of the Old Republic Jedi Master Shaak Ti, dating back to the time of the Clone Wars, have shown her wearing such an Akul tooth headdress, signifying that this is a particularly strong tradition, as she even combined the adornment with her standard Jedi wardrobe. Akul are not normally native to other worlds other than Shili, but they have been exported. When released into the wild on other worlds, they reproduce without the normal ecological safeguards of their native environment and can quickly overwhelm a planet's ecosystem. Inbreeding both on Shili and on other worlds can raise the frequency of naturally occurring mutations, the most common of which is albinism. Akul are often caught for zoos, where they thrive in captivity. However, at great risk to their handlers, both normal and albino Akul are trained to perform in lavish stage shows and HoloNet productions, despite their ferocious natures. As Togrutas prefer company and normally shun individual independence, those who live solitary lives away from their people can suffer from acute bouts of depression, putting great pressure on themselves to make up for the life they left behind. Jedi Master Shaak Ti recorded some of her own troubles with this problem, even as she proudly espoused the Jedi lifestyle. Some attempt to cling to their non-Togruta friends in order to make up for what they miss in their pack-based life back home. In their culture, individuality is considered somewhat deviant, and yet those who take leadership positions among their people are sometimes forced to achieve their goals through calculated individualism. Sociologists claim this is a sign of the further social evolution of the Togruta people. With very few exceptions, Togrutas who venture off-world are members of the Jedi Order, and notably they tend to be female. Although there is no independent Force tradition on Shili, recovered historical records indicate Togrutas have joined the Jedi as far back as the very beginning of the Order, often serving with distinction. As already noted, Shaak Ti was a Jedi Master, one of several Togrutas to earn the rank. In addition, a Togruta female youngling named Ashla was a Padawan at the Jedi Temple on Coruscant during the Clone Wars. And perhaps not coincidentally, her name is an ancient word associated with the light side of the Force. Although reasons for the Togrutas playing such a considerable role in Jedi history are at best speculative, due to Emperor Palpatine's destruction of records specifically related to the Jedi and the achievements of non-human species. It appears this species has a special affinity for the Force. How they achieve this heightened Force sense is also a point of speculation, as they have at best average midichlorian counts in comparison to other species. However, given that Togruta feel a bond with the land or the planet they happen to be on, as demonstrated by their preference for being barefoot, they may have a unique ability to tap into the life essence of the universe in ways that defy description in terms of the Force or simple midichlorian counts. Furthermore, Togrutas are a herding and hunting people, which heightens the detailed spatial sense imparted from their montrails, even for non-Force sensitives. With such an instinctual response to their environment, Togrutas would find feeling the living Force easier than other species. Unfortunately, there are no current known Togruta members serving the Jedi Order, so the source of their affinity for the Force will remain an unknown for the time being.
Geonosis, a hellish world scoured by radiation. Geonosis was first explored when its nearest neighbor, Tatooine, was settled by miners some 4 millennia before the Battle of Yavin. The Geonosians were fascinated by the outsiders' technology, and the hives proved adept at solving problems and finding efficiencies in devices' function and production. The Geonosians began making labor droids in their own image, and these droids became known as cheap, simple, and reliable models. But contacts between the Republic and Arcana sector proved fleeting. Tatooine was abandoned, and the Geonosians' advances copied by corporations closer to the core, and contact with outsiders caused a deep rift among the hives, a rift that soon exploded into savage warfare. As Geonosis dissolved into conflict, it was abandoned and all but forgotten until the Republic's final centuries. The Hive Wars had finally ebbed, and scouts and traders once again made tentative contact with the Geonosians. The Hives eventually struck a distribution deal with the Bactoid Armor Workshop, returning their droids to the galactic market. Sith Lord Darth Sidious thought the Geonosian skills were wasted on labor droids. He engineered the rise of the Geonosian rebel Poggle the Lesser, then used the planet's Trade Federation connections to create an army of battle droids for his own schemes, as well as early plans for what would become the Death Star. In 22 BBY, Geonosis was the site of a fateful meeting between Count Dooku and the leaders of the nascent Confederacy of Independent Systems. That was soon followed by the opening battle of the Clone Wars, joined when the Jedi Master Yoda led a clone army from Kamino to Geonosis in time to rescue Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, Padme Amidala, and the Jedi Knights who'd been sent to rescue them. The Republic occupied Geonosis. Loath to let its droid foundries fall back into separatist hands, the Empire kept a tight grip on the system, nationalizing its output and forbidding corporate contacts with the Hives. Geonosian scientists continued to assist with the Death Star project and other Imperial war efforts. The New Republic allowed the Geonosians to work as subcontractors once again, but maintained a right of refusal on all projects. And the planet has a diameter of 11,370 kilometers. The planet has a diameter of 11,370 kilometers. The length of day is 30 standard hours, and its year is 256 local days. The population is 100 billion. The sentient species is Geonosians, obviously, and the species mix is Geonosians, 99%, and other is 1%. Language spoken is Geonosian. The government is Hives. They export technology and droids and import raw materials.
Geonosians are the only advanced life form native to the barren, rock-laden world of Geonosis, located only a parsec away from the famed desert world of Tatooine in the Outer Rim. Geonosians are a winged, flying insectoid race sporting elongated faces, multi-jointed limbs, and a hard brown chitinous exoskeleton that protects them from the radiation bombardment of a nearby star that has rendered their world a red-tinted desert wasteland. One subspecies of this group is wingless, and its members serve the flying species as drone workers. Like most insects, Geonosians begin life as eggs laid by a queen. Once a pupa hatches, it is trained and acculturated to serve in its assigned role in society. Within the warrior hives, for instance, soldier pupae grow to adult size quickly and are ready to fight by the age of 6. Adult Geonosian warriors have vestigial wings that enable them to hover for short intervals, while younger, lighter warriors can fly greater distances and are used for scouting missions. A ring of small metal-rich asteroids encircles their planet. These asteroids are an enormous resource for raw materials used in the weapons manufacturing process, an activity that has made the Geonosians infamous. The asteroid ring is a mixed blessing, however, as it can also serve as an excellent cover for corporate spies entering the world's atmosphere who are hidden by frequently falling asteroids and meteor showers. In addition, a dense, high-altitude fog enshrouds a large majority of the planet, creating almost night-like conditions that can last for weeks. As a result of this, and of the barrage of radiation, many of the creatures on the world are bioluminescent, and most, even the Geonosians, remain underground despite their resistance to the environmental conditions. The Geonosian people were well known in the pre-Imperial era for their construction of battle droids, ships and weapons technology, the use of which peaked during the Clone Wars. They first created battle droids for the Trade Federation, then expanded their enterprise to supply a growing separatist movement led by Count Dooku. As such, except for those visiting on business, Geonosis is not a popular world for tourists. Geonosian society is divided into a class system that evolved over thousands of years from the hive mentality of the species' insect ancestors. It is separated into two levels, the aristocrats and the warriors. Those who are flightless have no caste at all, and are considered without any value save for their use in menial labor. The workers run the manufacturing operations, and the warriors fight and defend the interests of the aristocrats. Although the warriors are fighters, they are not members of a standing army. A subcaste of warrior pilots are trained to require no sleep. From infancy, they are paired with a specific flight computer with whom they build a unique integrated rapport. And yet, while all of these warriors are well taught and intelligent, they lack the ingenuity found in many other sentient species, and can be easily defeated in battle by another group possessing superior creativity and wits. The aristocrats rule and command all the operations on Geonosis. These nobles feel it is their right to govern while thousands of workers labor to serve their every whim. It was the noble class that envisioned and sparked the construction of the complex, organic, architectural realm in which they all live. Based on structures built by their insect forebears in the wild, the Geonosians created refined, spire-like buildings that are highly impressive to most outsiders. Geonosians reside within these organic-looking structures in hive communities. The worker drones, meanwhile, have almost no rights and serve their masters without question. Workers are genetically altered to serve in 3 distinct subcastes in order to fill the many roles within the hive, namely those of servants, laborers, and farmers. The Geonosian civilization is a bloodthirsty one, enthusiastically encouraging execution in gladiatorial arenas. Sociologists believe the harshness of Geonosians' environment, coupled with the rigid structure of their caste system, led to this form of barbaric cultural development. They seem to find brutality amusing, as thousands of Geonosians congregate in execution arenas to watch condemned individuals die gruesome deaths in the teeth of fearsome beasts or at the hands of other doomed prisoners. The aristocracy thinks nothing of executing worker drones in the arena, particularly if they prove problematic to the system, for most drones doing their work and living in their communal environment is all they can hope for. Worker drones have no personal living space or possessions of their own, and to conserve resources, the ruling class may order drones into suspended animation or sleep stasis when their services are no longer required. Geonosian workers are of higher intelligence, use gladiatorial combat as their one means to move up in status and possibly escape their plight in the service of their masters. Considered aberrations, warrior Geonosians enter the arena willingly. There they are often pitted in fatal games against additional Geonosians, other sentient species, or savage creatures. If the worker wins a battle or lives to see another day, he or she is often granted life and exiled, but may find refuge at the Gallard stables. Sometimes a victorious Geonosian may even move up in status, receiving acclaim and financial rewards. Another role that workers can earn, even those who are flightless, is to serve as a picador in the gladiatorial arena, using energy pikes to control and goad vicious creatures into attacking combatants. They are also responsible for removing any bodies that are not devoured. Either way, if they earn enough prestige and wealth, they may be able to escape Geonosis entirely. Even so, those Geonosians who can leave their world rarely do, because the hive mentality is so strong. Those who depart often show a certain amount of contempt for other species, and they cannot disconnect themselves from the hive mentality. It is a culture-wide sense of xenophobia that often leads to them into conflict with outsiders. Those Geonosians seen around the galaxy usually work together in groups and send home the fruits of their labors to their hives on Geonosis. While the Geonosians have accomplished masterful feats of engineering and managed massive construction efforts, They appear to be, to most observers, to be rather simple-minded. Many Geonosians were, in fact, easily absorbed into the Killik hive mind during the colony's recent expansion across the galaxy. Sociologists theorize, however, that this outcome, too, was a result of their insect ancestry. Much of the Geonosians' collective intelligence is considered to be held by the leadership of the hive, a mentality that is ingrained from infancy. And, obviously the most notable individual of the Geonosian species is Poggle the Lesser, as seen in Attack of the Clones.
Wait, little Skywalker is stalled. Tusken Raiders are camped out on the camp. Ooh, there goes Quadranero's power coupling.
Pollillus, located in the Vanel system, in the Vanel sector in the core, beyond the Cornact cluster. It was home to the multi-headed species Troigs. By 32 BBY, the planet was discovered by the galactic community. The surface of Pollillus sported several land masses and numerous bodies of water. The planet had no predatory creatures to threaten the Troigs. When the planet was discovered not long before the Battle of Yavin in 32 BBY, some of the Troigs left in the explorers' ships. Fodsin Bede Enodu, or Foden Bede, was one such Troig. He became a sportscaster and one of the most famous Troigs. He is the one that's casting the Boonta Eve Classic in The Phantom Menace. Years later, the Troig Dwur Sin Tab made the news when Dwur wanted to separate via surgery from Tab, but that's impossible, as to do that would kill one of them, so that's can't happen. And the language they speak is obviously Troig, and their major city is Twin Cities. Troig were a two-headed, occasionally more multi-limbed sentient species hailing from Pollillus. Most Troig had 2 heads and 4 arms, with one head controlling one set of arms independently, but most Troigs had a dominant hand. Each head had a unique personality. Troigs with 2 heads had a sapren, or right head, which was thought to be the source of qualities such as loyalty, faith, and cunning, and the sapra, or left head, was thought to be the source of love, anger, and passion. More than 2-headed Troigs were rare, but celebrated when they happened. Each head had its own name, and the Troig's full name would be the first. Each head had its own name, and the Troig's full name would be the joining of the names with the infix sin, like Fodsin Bede, Enodu. Fodsin Bede was used when referring to them as a single being. Troigs were gifted linguists. If one head learned any language, the other heads would understand what that head said instinctively. Pollillus remained neutral during the Clone Wars, as it lay beyond the influence of both the Republic and the Confederacy of Independent Systems. Notable Troigs: Foden Bede, sportscaster of the Boonta Eve, and he had a talk show as well. Andrew Sin Lian, host of the talk show Essence on Eriadu. And you have Pilcat Sin Nero, and was a bartender of the Spider Casino on Coruscant.
Don't worry, my friend's down there. You let that shield down on time.
Starting with a bit on Sullust, the planet, a volcanic world on the Rimma trade route in the Outer Rim. Sullust is home to millions of the galaxy's best navigators and one massive multi-stellar conglomerate. From space, Sullust looks uninhabitable. Multicolored rock, veined by glowing lava channels, covers the entire globe, with great gouts of smoky ash causing regular atmospheric blackouts. But it's a different story below the surface, where a stable warren of tunnels links edible lichen gardens with pools of potable water. It was here that the Sullustan species evolved, developing wide eyes to collect faint light and large ears to perceive directional sound. Sullustans also acquired an innate sense of direction, which served them well when they joined the interstellar community. Sullustans helped blaze the full length of the Rima, finding ready work as scouts, pilots, and hyperspace mappers. commerce along the Rima disproportionately enriched one Sullustan corporation, Sorosub, and it soon swelled into a monopolistic juggernaut involved in everything from airspeeders to nutrient paste. By the time of the Clone Wars, Sorosub's influence had grown so strong that the president of the Celestan Council bowed to the company's Commerce Guild ties and signed on with Count Dooku's Confederacy of Independent Systems. Celestan Admiral Duoningo led the Separatists' bulwark fleet and scored a historic victory at the Battle of Forost. At the war's conclusion, the Sorosub board of directors repositioned themselves as Imperial loyalists, toppling Sullust's president in a corporate coup. A local resistance movement arose, aided by pirate flyer Naya Num, which succeeded in breaking Sorosub's governmental control around the time of the Battle of Yavin. Sullust never joined the Rebel Alliance, and the Empire used it as a jumping-off point for construction traffic traveling the Sanctuary pipeline en route to the second Death Star. Just prior to the Battle of Endor, the Rebel fleet gathered in the Sullust system to use that same pipeline as an attack corridor, obscuring its true intentions by staging a minor raid on Sullust itself. And here's a few extra little details on Sullust. It's terrain, mountains, volcanoes, caves. It is 12,780 kilometers in diameter, and it is 20 standard hours a day, and it has 263 standard days in a year, and its population is 18.5 billion. Obviously, the sentient species is the Sullustans. The makeup on the population is about 96% Sullustans, 2% humans, percent of Bith, and 1% of other species. Obviously, the languages spoken there are Celestese and Basic, and it has a corporate government, and its major exports are starships, computers, droids, hyperdrive, and astrogation technology, and its major imports are foodstuffs and water. Alright, now that we know a little bit about the planet that they come from, now, here is the species. Sullustans are jowled, round-eared humanoids with large, round black eyes. They inhabit subterranean caverns beneath the surface of Sullust, a volcanic planet with an inhospitable atmosphere that is filled with black clouds of volcanic ash, dust, and toxic fumes. Sullustans prefer to remain in their cool, humid cave environment and only go to the surface for short periods of time. Most don environment suits for long excursions. On the surface, besides facing the heavily polluted air, they face the threat of dangerous predators. Many of Sullust's creatures are extremely tough to kill, and Sullustans do their best to avoid them. Sullustan physiology is well adapted to the underground environment. Their eyes see very well in dim light, and their oversized ears make them extremely sensitive to even the faintest sounds. Due to their skilled hearing, they love music and produce very fine musical compositions. Their language, although it sounds to most species like rapid chatter, includes extremely subtle sound fluctuations that only Sullustans can reproduce and perceive. Any Sullustan born with a hearing impairment has extreme difficulty. Deaf Sullustans do not live long, partially because predators victimize them, but also because they take their own lives out of despair that they cannot truly communicate with their own. While their unique vision allows them to see in the dark, regular exposure to natural light causes Sullustans to suffer from corneal degeneration. Those who are regularly out in the galaxy will start to see these effects after 30 years of life. Those who start to be affected by this malady choose to wear special visors to protect their eyes from further damage. While all Sullustans look similar to one another, the truth is that each Sullustan's cranial markings and dew flaps are unique to that individual, as unique as a retinal marker or fingerprint. Some Sullustans take this uniqueness a step further to add ritual tattoos, reinforcing their individualism. Most Sullustans are completely hairless, but those who can grow hair on their faces only, do so to further announce their uniqueness. Sociologists theorize this emphasis on the individual is prompted by their unique economic system. Most Sullustans work for one corporation, so while variety in what one does is not always possible, diversity in how one looks makes all the difference. In fact, how one looks is so important that Sullustans developed an art of hairstyling and cosmetology. The barbers of Sullust are renowned for their skill, even though most Sullustans have no hair. All Sullustans also have an enhanced sense of direction, which allows them to find their way through the labyrinthine passages of their cities. Moreover, this ability makes them some of the best navigators and pilots. It has been said that once Sullustans have traveled a path, they never forget it, even when traveling through hyperspace. The Sullustan people have turned their underground environment into a near paradise. Their passageways lead to beautiful underground cities where visitors walk cobblestone streets, eat at cafes, and shop for unique items available only in the subterranean markets. Sullust is home to the Sorosub Corporation, a leading mineral processing company that maintains space mining, food packaging, and technology-producing divisions throughout the galaxy. Important, almost 50% of the Sullustan population works for Sorosub. During the rule of the Empire, Sorosub proclaimed its loyalty to the New Order. With the Empire's support, the Sorosub Corporation dissolved the legal government of Sullust and took control of the entire world. Many Sullustans supported the Rebel Alliance because it was actively fighting the Empire. Inspired by the Alliance's just cause, many left Sullust quickly to help in the fight, distinguishing themselves with honor. At the decisive Battle of Endor, Sullustans flew many of the Rebel B-Wings. Sullustan hero Nyan Num flew as Lando Calrissian's co-pilot in the Millennium Falcon. Before joining the Rebel Alliance, Num had gained renown among his people by raiding Sorosub Corporation sites and stealing its starships. When the Empire fell, the leadership of Sorosub tried to escape the wrath of the populace. Sorosub executives were captured, put on trial, and imprisoned. A new board of directors took control of Sorosub, and the people returned to their original democratic form of government. In the ensuing years, Sullustans continued to serve important roles within the New Republic. A Sullustan core family grouping is called a Warren clan. Each of these clans is headed by one female who bears children by several husbands, all of whom live together or in nearby quarters. Females without husbands, called femmes, are active as leaders and employees of Sorosub until they are ready to begin breeding. At this point, a femme seeks out mates to establish a Warren clan. After establishing a Warren clan, she will no longer work outside the home, considering maintaining her Warren clan to be her primary job. The husbands, however, work outside the home, and some travel off-planet as pilots to supplement their clan's income. As a people, Sullustans are happy, practical, and fond of playing pranks on their friends, and yet they can be very formal in their social expectations and traditions. All of the elements of their ceremonial traditions bear in mind social status and have specific meaning, as exemplified by their funeral services. Sullustan mourners wear bright-colored tabards to signify their status in society or relation to the deceased. The body is placed in wall crypt and closed in with blocks of transparisteel. All mourners place a block in the wall in order of their social status and relationship to the deceased. The deceased's immediate family goes first, followed by the married males of his clan, other blood relatives, close friends, and representatives of Sorosub. Finally, the one who is considered closest to the deceased, be it friend or spouse, places the last block. Before placing this block, the last person must give a brief statement of as many words as the deceased's age in standard years. The speaker must not eulogize the dead, which would insinuate the others present that did not know the deceased as well as the speaker. This comment is to be forward-looking and from the heart. Any deviance from this protocol causes great insult and can lead to some nasty confrontations. Sullustans have similar protocols for all special occasions, be they birthdays, weddings, or holidays. They enjoy meeting new species and getting to know them. Perpetually curious, they enjoy learning new things, not just about science and technology, but also about cultures, traditions, art, and music. Sullustans especially like to learn things through personal experience, making them somewhat reckless. As pilots, they tend to take a lot more chances than the average humanoid, as if testing how much their ships can take. Despite this, they are favorite members of any crew because of knowledge, talents, and wholehearted love of flying. And, a notable appearance.
I am Juhani, and this is my grove. This is the place of my dark power. This is the place you have invaded.
Alright, so Cathar, the planet, is located in the Outer Rim territories. It has 24 standard hours in its day and 259 days in its year. Cathar was a temperate world with savannas and rough uplands. It had a tribal government. The population consisted of 99% Cathar and 1% other species. Its major imports are luxury goods and technologies, and it has no major exports. The native Cathar lived in city trees, while Kiltic beetles made several areas barren. Cathar killed giant horned hoppers in blood hunts, and during the Mandalorian Wars, which were from 3976 BBY to 3960 BBY, the Cathar was conquered by the Mandalorians during the Battle of Cathar, leading to the Cathar being enslaved and driven to near extinction. Survivors fled to survive. Once the wars were over, the Cathar began to resettle their world, and by the time of the Galactic Civil War, 2 BBY to 19 ABY, it had fully recovered from all the damage by the Mandalorians. Prior to the Mandalorian Wars, Cathar was not a republic world. So, the Cathar were a species of feline or cat-like bipedal humanoids native to Cathar, known for loyalty, passion, and temper. They were considered great warriors and efficient predators. They had high moral values, which they learned from their family and society. Females were prized as slaves. Males were considered too uncontrollable for slavery. Baseline Cathar were covered in fur and had thick manes. Their hands had prominent, retractable claws that could kill foe and prey alike. They, on average, stood at 1.5 to 1.9 meters or 4.9 to 6.2 feet tall. There were two subspecies, the Juhani and the Mirial, both of which were less cat-like than the baseline species. They were born into litters, and the Cathar were similar biologically to the Bothan species. As stated earlier, the Cathar were conquered by the Mandalorians during the Mandalorian Wars, and when the Sith Empire returned, the Cathar sided with the Republic, due to the Sith Empire liberating a Cathar political prisoner from Belsavas, who was there. The Republic basically imprisoned him. This damaged public trust between the Republic and the alien citizens, and this obviously led to many Cathar joining the Sith Empire. The Cathar lived in cities built in large trees, and their clans were governed by elders. They carved stories of great heroes into the trunks of their trees for future generations to see. They mated for life, to the point where if a mate dies, the survivor never had a relationship with another. They had great pageants and celebrations, especially for heroes, and in their religion, the Blood Hunt, where Cathar warriors individually engaged in combat against entire nests of Kiltic in order to gain honor and purge inner darkness. They spoke Catharese, and it emphasized some words with a growl, and some memorable Cathar were actually Jedi. You had Silvar and her mate, Credo.
General Kenobi, You are a bold one.
Kalee. It is located in the outer rim. It has rainforests, canyons, and seas. Its diameter is 13,850 kilometers. It has 23 standard hours for its day and 378 standard days in its year. It has a population of 4 billion. Its sentient species is the Kaleesh, and the species on the planet are 99% Kaleesh and 1% other. The language spoke is Kaleesh. Their government is tribal. They have no major exports, and their major imports are foodstuffs and technology. And their system is the Abiji Iminek system. And then some planets or moons. You have Preli, which is molten. Norban, which is airless. Abiji Minor is terrestrial. Kalee is terrestrial. You have Torviskal, which is also terrestrial. Remsh is a gas giant, and Elk is a frozen rock. Kalee is an outer rim planet best known as the homeworld of General Grievous. Its history is marked by near continuous warfare, explaining why so much of the population is trapped in desolate poverty. The planet is a hot world covered with mossy cliffs, dark seas, sweeping steppes, and steaming jungles. The stone monolith of Abesmi, jutting skyward from the waters of the Genoa Sea, is an object of adoration to the native Kaleesh, who believe it is where their gods ascend to heaven. Shrines can be found all over the planet, honoring historic figures who battled their way to divinity. The holiest such shrine is Shrupak, at the gateway to the steppes of Asuz. All Kaleesh prize the path of the warrior and wear the skulls and hides of Lumus and Karabaks as ritual adornments. Nearly all sea life on Kalee is poisonous. Kalee is on the outer border of the Kadak regions, squeezed between two belligerent civilizations. But the Bothawuians on the rimward side and the Yamri to the coreward. Nearly a century before the Battle of Yavin, the Republic convinced the Kaleesh to fight the Bothawuians in order to unseat a regime considered unfriendly to Coruscant. Decades later, the mantis-like Yamri embarked on a crusade of expansion, battling their way to Kalee until beaten back by Kimianjai Shilal, a charismatic Kaleesh warlord. Shilal took the fight all the way back to the enemy's homeworld of Huk. The beaten Yamri pleaded with the Republic for help, and Coruscant ended the war and levied heavy sanctions against Kalee. With the world already depleted by warfare and overhunting, the restrictions pushed the planet into famine and cannibalism. Shilal, who by that point had taken the name Grievous, entered into the service of the intergalactic banking clan. In return, the IBC assisted Kalee with loans and supply connections. Kalee escaped the Clone Wars intact, but Grievous was counted among the war's casualties. The planet has honored its late champion with a temple of his own, in a lofty place in the Kaleesh pantheon. The Kaleesh are a reptilian humanoid species native to the outer rim world of Kalee. They are an attractive group, similar in appearance to the Faline in some respects, though the Kaleesh's scaled skin is reddish-orange, and they have two sharp tusks that protrude outward from their jawbones on each side of their faces. Jet black hair cascades from their heads, usually worn tied back in braids. Yellow reptilian eyes with elliptical irises give them fairly average eyesight, although Kaleesh possess a thermoreceptor gland directly next to their eyes, with which they can see into the infrared spectrum for a short range, as can many hunter snakes. The Kaleesh are a polygamous people, with each male having multiple wives and many offspring. But whether this is a cultural tradition or a practice instituted to meet a societal or biological need, as in the case of Syrians, with their low birth rate and imbalanced male-to-female ratio, is unknown. Despite their relative attractiveness, the faces and bodies of the Kaleesh are rarely exposed. Most wear masks made of the skulls and teeth of their world's fiercest predators, the Karaba, and the Mumus to conceal their faces. Kaleesh also cover their bodies completely for defense against the harsh sun of their homeworld, and usually their four-fingered claw-like hands are the only aspect of the Kaleesh that can be seen. In addition, the families of the elite Kaleesh warriors wear hereditary battle masks that are passed down within a house's line from one generation to the next. These masks are painted with Karaba and Mumu blood prior to a battle in patterns that are unique to each family. After being used in combat, they are cleaned and stored until they are needed again. The Kaleesh are a nomadic tribal people and have become spacefaring only recently. During the waning years of the Old Republic, Kaleesh tribes united under a common leader who would later be known as Grievous, to fight off an invading insectoid race called the Huk. The Huk had already conquered and subjugated other worlds, plundering them of their natural riches. With Baron Kalee, they sought to exploit the only commodity available to make a profit: people. The Huk captured Kaleesh by the hundreds and sold them as slaves. Under Grievous's leadership, the Kaleesh banded together and drove the Huk from their planet. In the process, the Huk were completely decimated, pushed back to their own world and even beyond, as Grievous, seeking revenge, co-opted Huk technology and ships for his own use, conquering their entire system and preying upon their colonies as well as their homeworld. The Huk, utterly overwhelmed by the vitriolic hatred and violence of the Kaleesh, sought help from the Old Republic, which, through the backdoor manipulations of unknown forces, sympathized with the Huk and enacted economic sanctions against Kalee, enforced by the Jedi. Grievous withdrew to his homeworld angry and vengeful, to soon find it driven into the dust under the weight of economic sanctions. Witnessing his people starving and watching hundreds of thousands dying from famine, Grievous grew even more contemptuous of the Republic and the Jedi who protected it. As if in answer to his woes, the intergalactic banking clan, headed by a Mune called San Hill, offered Grievous a deal through which he could help his people financially. With his masterful military commanding skills, he would act as a collection agent against worlds that had defaulted on loans provided by the banking clan. Though Grievous bristled at being a paid heavy, he took the offer. After all, the clan promised to relieve some of the terrible debts and financial stress levied upon his people, not to mention arranging to have the economic sanctions lifted. For the most part, the banking clan did live up to the bargain, as did Grievous, delivering the debts of several planets to them. And yet, the favorable relationship was not to last. When the Trade Federation refused to punish Grievous's old enemies for desecrating Kaleesh burial grounds on the Huk's colony worlds, Grievous abandoned his job, starting another conflict. The intergalactic banking clan decided to repay him for his lack of commitment by setting off an explosive device in his ship. However, this attack was actually another ploy to keep Grievous under its sway, as the intent was never to kill him, but to make Grievous dependent and controllable. Wounded in the subsequent crash and suffering from additional injuries carefully inflicted afterward, Grievous was given a new cyborg body by Count Dooku and San Hill, who also secretly altered his mind, all with the help of the Geonosians. Without Grievous's knowledge, and despite promises made to the contrary, Grievous's sense of honor as a warrior was removed, turning him into an unscrupulous conqueror. After this, the great Kaleesh military commander became little more than a lackey for the Separatists, until his eventual death at the hands of Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi. Following the fall of the Republic, and during the expansion of the Empire, the Kaleesh were generally overlooked until the New Republic rose to power. They remain a warlike people, although they are only known to be combative if provoked by outside forces. Extremely protective of what they consider sacred, the Kaleesh follow a religion that centers on ancestor worship. Their lands and burial grounds hold particular importance. Kaleesh believe that those who die in self-sacrifice and with honor are added to their pantheon of gods, and as a result, any burial ground is a holy place. The primary area of worship for Kaleesh is an island called Abesmi, located in the middle of the warm world's single ocean, where it rises from the waves as a rectangular black formation of rock. This place is said to be the spot where Kaleesh ancestors descend from and rise to the heavens. It is customary to undertake pilgrimages to Abesmi, though most Kaleesh can make their proper worship commitments in local sculpted shrines that point in the direction of the legendary island. One of these newer shrines was built in honor of General Grievous, who is now a revered member of the religion's heavenly pantheon.
Trandosha. Located in the Kashyyyk system in the Maitaranor sector in the Mid-Rim, also known as Dosha or Hiskor by the native Trandoshans, Trandosha joined the Republic around 7000 BBY, but it wasn't well integrated into the Republic and gained slavery rights to their neighbors, the Wookiees, which began a millennia-spanning animosity between the two species. In 23 BBY, a Wookiee vessel was attacked, leading to a Wookiee blockade of Trandosha. Peace talks failed when the planet was seeking senatorial representation with the Tread Federation backing them. While Trandosha remained loyal to the Republic, many Trandoshans joined the Confederacy of Independent Systems and engaged in enslaving Wookiees. Had a population of about 42 million, and it was 99% Trandoshans and 1% other. It had a tribal government. They spoke Dosh, and they imported technology and exported mercenaries, slaves, and detectives. And Hiskor served as the capital city for the Trandoshans. Trandoshans, who refer to themselves as Tadoshk, are large bipedal reptilians known for their ruthless warrior culture. Like most reptiles, Trandoshans are cold-blooded and possess scaly skin, which they shed roughly every standard year. Their super-sensitive orange eyes can see into the infrared range, and they are able to regenerate lost limbs, at least until they reach Trandoshan middle age. Each of their appendages ends in 3 digits, with sharp claws that are excellent for fighting, although they lack in manual dexterity, causing their finger movements to be rather clumsy. Their oversized, oddly shaped feet also prevent them from wearing any sort of footgear, which is sometimes an impediment when on the hunt or in combat. As members of a saurian species, female Trandoshans lay clutches of 4 eggs at a time, and nest them in a warm place in their home. When young Trandoshans hatch, they are already able to walk and possess a natural instinct for the hunt, usually chasing their clutch brothers or sisters around the home in a type of hiding game. When they reach 2 standard years of age, the parents take their children out on their first hunt, instructing them on how to track beasts in the wild. And by the age of 10, most Trandoshans are proficient in unarmed combat, firearms, and the use of melee weaponry. This species is extremely violent by nature. Trandoshans' culture is based on the hunting and tracking of beings less powerful than themselves. They worship a female deity known as the Scorekeeper, who awards Jagannath points to Trandoshans based on their success or failure in the hunt and mortal combat. Those hunters who earn the most have the highest status in society and are considered valuable mates by females. When Trandoshan males have proven themselves successful in the hunt, they return to their homeworld to mate with a convenient clutch mother. These relationships are arranged and are not considered binding. Once a couple have mated, the female lays her eggs and watches over them until they hatch. As soon as they are old enough, the male children will go out into the galaxy to begin scoring points for their goddess. The Trandoshans have a particularly adversarial relationship with their in-system neighbors, the Wookiees. Before the birth of the Empire, they attempted to colonize the Wookiee homeworld of Kashyyyk, but were soundly defeated after several bloody battles. When the Wookiees enacted numerous laws to discourage big game hunting in the system, as well as regulations to protect local ecosystems, the Trandoshans were incensed. They had come to rely on the capital influx from tourism, and they resented the Wookiees' discouragement of the industry in their system. In retribution, they conducted another series of raids on Kashyyyk, this time in an attempt to plunder the natural resources the Wookiees had sought to protect. While bloody conflicts raged on both worlds, the Wookiees appealed to the Senate of the Old Republic, and the governing body intervened, enacting strict trade sanctions against the Trandoshans unless they withdrew from Kashyyyk. They did, once again vowing revenge. When the Emperor took control of the galaxy, the Trandoshans saw another opportunity to have their vengeance. They aided in the Imperial strikes on Kashyyyk, helping to capture Wookiees in large groups and turning them over to become slaves for the Empire. When the Empire fell, the New Republic demanded that the Trandoshans once more cease their raids on Kashyyyk under the threat of economic sanctions and military action. They did so with much grumbling, though their previous deeds in support of the Empire have caused them to remain one of the least trusted species in the galaxy. Making no attempt to disguise their dispositions, Trandoshans continue to enforce the stereotype that they are violent, egocentric, and malicious people. Aggressive and vindictive, they love competition for its own sake, although it is especially appealing to them as a means of dealing out vengeance. Interclan rivalries have been known to claim numerous lives and turn son against father. In certain cases, however, they can still show compassion and mercy, particularly if it is a matter of honor. Trandoshans will, like their Wookiee nemesis, pledge their lives to protect another being who has saved them from death, although they would have a difficult time making that pledge to a Wookiee. To this day, they despise their Wookiee neighbors and will never be caught in their company, except in the rarest of circumstances. And yet, despite their highly aggressive culture, some Trandoshans have been known to show a streak of independence, preferring to keep alternative elements of their society running effectively. These Trandoshans are still considered hunters, although not in a traditional sense. Scientists, for instance, will hunt for answers in the study of science, while xenobiologists hunt for details on other worlds and their various cultures. Engineers hunt for superior weapons or ship designs. Most day-to-day professions can be considered honorable in the sense of the hunt, as long as they produce something that improves or enriches society, though admittedly Trandoshans would most likely find little value in being an actor or a comedian. And obviously the most notable Trandoshan is Bosk, the bounty hunter from Empire Strikes Back. Their homeworld is called Trandosha, or as they refer to it, Dosha or Iskor.
The crystal is the heart of the blade. The heart is the crystal of the Jedi. The Jedi is the crystal.
Mirial, a cold, dry planet located in the Tingle Arm in the Outer Rim. It was also near one of the galaxy's major routes, the Hydean Way. Native species are the Mirialans, and the primary language is Mirialan. As of 25 ABY, or 25 years after the Battle of Yavin, the population was between 100 million to 500 million. Mirial joined the galaxy prior to 3951 BBY, or before the Battle of Yavin. At the time of the Jedi Civil War, Mirial sided with the Sith Empire, but once Darth Malak died, Mirial rejoined the Republic. At some point, Mirial fought and won a war against a neighboring planet thanks to Arwen Cole, and this would have been sometime prior to the Clone Wars. Mirial was in Separatist space during the Clone Wars, and thus it was a Separatist world, and it was later under the control of the Galactic Empire. Mirialans are a near-human species from Mirial. Their skin varies from yellow-green to a paler color similar to humans. And they can have black hair, which is pretty common, but they also can have brown, blonde, and red. Whereas their eyes, they can be normal colors like blue or green, but then there's some, different choices in violet, yellow, or orange. They are quite flexible and have excellent agility, which makes them quite formidable opponents. The greatest difference from humans, besides their green skin, is this agility and quick reflexes, and this gives them the upper hand when it comes to comparing them to humans. Mirialans are deeply religious and practiced what was a primitive understanding of the Force. They believed an individual's actions contributed to their destiny, which built upon past successes and failures to drive them to their fates. Their tattoos, often geometrically repeated on their face and hands, to signify a great test or task completed. The more tattoos on a Mirialan often was a great indicator of maturity or skill. Due to more tattoos bringing a form of status, Mirialans were stratified, and this allowed the heavily tattooed citizens to get better opportunities than the less tattooed, I guess you could say. Although important, most Mirialans didn't know the entirety of the tattoo lexicon due to its complexity. Placement and positioning of the shapes was subtle and could change the meaning drastically depending on where it was positioned. They viewed individual actions through the Force also affecting the destiny of Mirialans. Due to the Force being understood through the cosmic force at a basic level, the cultural significance of the energy was defined as fate. So, non-Force sensitive Mirialans still had faith in fate, or the Force, and felt it guide their lives. Mirialans were common in the Jedi Order throughout the years it existed. When the Sith Empire returned and invaded the Galactic Republic, this led to the Great Galactic War. Mirial was promoted by Mirialans as a safe haven for refugees from the Outer Rim. This led to a significant amount of Mirialans enlisting in the Republic military and joining the Jedi Order. And now some notable Mirialans. So first up you have Hylo Viz. He was a smuggler in the Old Republic era, and he led a coalition of smugglers against a Mandalorian blockade of Coruscant to deliver goods to them. And this is from Star Wars: The Old Republic. Next you have Arwen Cole, and she was a freedom fighter decades before the Clone Wars, and she's the one that led the battle, I guess it was a war, with a neighboring system. So Mirial won this war. And next you have Luminara Unduli and Barriss Offee. These two Mirialans were master and apprentice, respectively, during the Clone Wars. And you could see them in Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, and Clone Wars. Both versions of the Clone Wars, as well as some other books and things, but that's like the major things. And then lastly, you have Tila Kars. She was a political prisoner who worked as an architect on the first Death Star, and that is from the Death Star novel. Lastly, you have Tila Kars. She was a political prisoner who worked as an architect on the first Death Star, and that is from the Death Star book by Michael Reeves.
Well, that's part 1, and this ends my longest video that I've ever done thus far, so that's kind of cool. Part 2 will come out next week. Let me know what you thought of this video in the comments. What's your favorite alien species? You can watch some other videos on aliens on screen now. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. And until next time, thanks for watching.